Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Today we are going to be taking a look at the weekly meta breakdown for the timeless best of one format. We'll cover off the remaining formats, including best of three timeless, hopefully by the end of the week or so, just catching up after a short vacation. Additionally, we may take a break depending on how the meta kind of ships out. We're getting the new set Thunder Junction in about a week and a half time, and we anticipate, especially with all the extra sets, we're getting things like Stoneforge Mystic, Archive Trap, which should help mill. We're getting Mana Drain that's going to be coming to the format. So we're getting some tools to add to the format as well. So make sure to kind of tune in, subscribe to the channel, so when we do go live with the new kind of meta breakdown with the new set as well, we can always cover that as well. We'll try to get these out weekly. As always, we get the data from MTG, companion tool that runs alongside Arena's client, aggregates your win rate with other users, gives us a whole bunch of cool stats. The link for Untapped is in the video description, but I'll timestamp and paste all these deck lists as well for your viewing consumption purposes. So we are going to be looking at timeless. We're going to start with popularity of the day, and then we're going to be looking to for the end of the month. So for popularity of the day, I'm doing platinum to mythic, given that today is April 2nd. It's the second day of the ladder reset. Most of the folks that were mythic are still platinum, so that kind of accounts for that. When we're going to be looking at the win rates, we're going to be looking at diamond to mythic because it encompasses the last week of the format, which would be when folks try to rank up to the highest, kind of their final placements, either pushing towards mythic or in mythic to get a top placement. So starting off with the popularity of the day, we have Show and Tell being the highest represented deck, 24.2%. What I always like to see is how that kind of, I guess we have to wait. Usually what I like to do is see how that kind of correlates to the other ranks. So we'll look at that next week just to see. Sometimes what you'll see is like it's pretty flat in platinum, but then a lot more condensed when you go to diamond or mythic, just in terms of decks being focused on like the spikiest, the spike ones. We have the Domain Aggro deck at just a shade under 20%. Mono Black Vampires at 12%, Grixis Shadow at 9%, Burn at 8%, and then kind of the Mono Black Control Winota kind of rounding out. If we continue to see, like Show and Tell peaked at about 30% and is kind of fallen a little bit down and then kind of reestablishing itself. Similarly, like Zoo was down in the low teens, now upwards to 20%. Kind of just seeing how things go. The Titan decks had a little bit of a came back a bit, and resurgence is the word I was looking for, but then kind of fell down. It seems pretty bad into Show and Tell. It's slow against some of the combo decks that are kind of being played in the format. So kind of moving over, we're going March 26th through to April 2nd, Diamond and Mythic rank. Only 8,400 games played, so we are putting the filters a little bit lower at 20 matches just to get a few more deck variations in. The highest performing deck is Rakdos Breach at 78%. This is a deck that typically does very well in best of one, just given that there's usually not as much graveyard hate. It's a very linear focused deck. You are kind of with this deck self-milling or just kind of surveilling cards into your graveyard, then casting an Underworld Breach, basically casting more spells, ideally Dark Ritual over and over again. With like things like Dragon Rage Chandler out to mill over, and then either with Diabolic Intent, Demonic Tutor, you would tutor for Tendrils of Agony, or just mill it over and storm out your opponent that way there. Access to Fatal Pushes, Lightning Bolts. This version is actually going up one more discard. It's typically a split of 2 and 2 between Lightning Bolt and Fatal Push. This one opting for one more discard spell for the Show and Tell matchup to try to hit that elusive Show and Tell. Otherwise, you just have kind of a more fair creature beatdown plan in some games where Ragavans and Dragon Rage Chandlers and Bowmasters are just going to attack your opponent to death. Lurrus Companion in this particular list. Moving on, we go to 5-color domains, 75% win rate. So this one, actually, we see the breakouts being featured, a couple copies of Inti, Nashiba Brawler, Territorial Kavu, and then we have Return of a Minskin Boo in the deck, full set of a Stubborn Denial, and then a split between Ragavan and Deathrite Shaman. It's kind of interesting in this one, just a fewer Lightning Bolt in the deck. It was actually interesting because like with the Timeless Showcase as the midweek Magic format for the week, there's a lot of folks commenting, I think this has never played the format before, commenting how, well, there's a stomping ground. It's typically because with this deck, you want red and green split between 2 different lands to allow you to get at least 4 colors of the domain start early. So usually it's like fetch on 1, get Breeding Pool for Deathrite Shaman, or fetch and get Sacred Foundry for like Rite of End type of approach. And this is a Jinganta companion. So 4-color show and tell. So this is the version that had the highest win rate for the week. I don't like this version as much relative to some of the other versions that we've seen. So this version here, I'm going to show both versions. This is the one that has the highest, and then I'm going to show the one I think is the better build. This is a non-combo version. And when I say that, I mean it theoretically is non-deterministic in terms of winning that turn. And the kind of core of the deck still is show and tell for Omniscience, get it into play, and then you kind of cheat into stuff play. You still have the Mastermind's Acquisition, but with this particular one, it's only playing a single copy Approach the Second Sun. It doesn't have, like, you're kind of reliant on having the Atraxa in hand or more ways to dig for the particular second copy of it to kind of go off with that. Similarly, it's only like 3 copies of Assemble the Team. You do have like impulse style effects, stuff of that nature. The version's playing a couple copies of Hullbreaker Horror, which again, you want to just, when you're playing the stuff out, you don't really care about bouncing stuff or kind of going from that avenue. You just want to win that turn through deterministic ways. Hullbreaker Horror, I guess if you have enough spells, you can cast the Approach the Second Sun, and then with the cast on the stack, you could cast another spell, bounce to hand, and then recast it. That should work based on the wording. If this spell was cast from your hand and you've cast another spell name to win the game, otherwise shuffle into your library. So I guess you cast it with the cast trigger on the stack. You can technically work with that, but now you're requiring more cards in hand to make it work that way there. So comparatively, I think this version's better. So this one I looked from like basically the whole month of March. This version here, a little bit more searching for it. You have like Dark Rituals to help you ramp up. This version here is on Fae of Wishes as well. So the Fae of Wishes allows you to kind of search for the Atraxas or whatever it may be. This version here is deterministic because you Fae of Wishes for shared summonings. You cast shared summonings, you search for another Fae of Wishes and Atraxa. You then use that Fae of Wishes to search for Approach the Second Sun. You cast Approach the Second Sun, you cast Atraxa, get the copy of Approach the Second Sun, win the game that way there. You can also use Scholar of the Ages to rebuy stuff from your graveyard, including Mastermind's Acquisition and a couple more utility spells. I think this version is more streamlined in terms of doing what you want to do. Just kind of winning the game in that respect. Assemble the Team helps you dig and stuff of that nature. I think this is a better version in terms of trying to execute the combo itself. From there, we go to Rakdos Burn. So this version here, we're seeing some copies of Roiling Vortex to combat the Show and Tell deck. Whenever they cast something with Omniscience, since it's 0 mana, they would take 5 damage. Then we just see a Light Up the Stage, Screw the Critics, Bowmasters. Akiba's in here, just a couple copies of Rite of End, trimming on that. Just aggressive, burn, point stuff to the face, try to kill them that way there. With this mana base, it's a little bit cleaner as well. That we see just like the fetches, like none of the pain lands that we see sometimes, Sulphurous Spring, stuff of that nature. One thing to be mindful of when playing this deck, you have a Roiling Vortex out. This is symmetrical. You cast a Mishra's Bauble, you are taking 5 damage to the face. So don't kill yourself. Just keep that in mind. Moving on, we go to Mono Black. They're calling it Control. This is a vampire kind of esque deck. So Alterex had a Mono Black Sorin Vampire Necro deck. That version was about 57%. This version's doing a little bit better in Best of 1. I would say don't play Reliquary Tower. It's like you're playing it for Necro, but it's going to mess you up more than it's going to be good. Similarly, don't play Scavenger's Grounds. Again, it's going to mess you up more than it is useful in terms of the deck itself. You're playing these cards that aren't going to actually help you cast your like Necro and stuff like that. You can play just more swamps. You can play some fetch lands in there, as well as like the Surveil land. That might be something you want to kind of go from there. The one thing with this version here, we're seeing some copies of Feed the Swarm that help against the Omniscience, that you can kind of use that to blow up their Omniscience. You have the One Rings, fewer copies of Necro, but still the Sorin Vein Ripper. Interesting to see, just kind of trimming down. So a little bit more mid-range focused in this particular build compared to the Vampire build. I'll actually pull up the Vampire build to compare and contrast. So this was my version of the deck. It's at 60%, 61%. And then this is Alth's deck. It's at 57%. So you can see with the mana base here, it's like Hive the Eye Tyrants, your Swamps, Takanuma, your Fetch Lands, and the one Raucous Theater. This version's on full Necro with the March of Wretched Sora. And then my version here, Kalidas in the main, mine's on the Bowmaster, Bloodcast kind of package, and then fewer copies of Necro. So it had a little bit harder time refilling your hand, but it was more creature focused, which was probably against like the show and tell decks, you want to be more interactive. But I'll include this one, and then if you're interested in this, I have a video up on the Mono Black Vampires deck if you're interested in seeing that. And if you're interested, I actually caught Alt MTG through MTG Arena Zone that has like a 2-hour video demonstrating the deck from the MTG Timeless Clash. I would highly recommend that video. It's a good demonstration of the deck itself as well. Moving on, we go to 4-color Yawg. So this is the Yawgmoth deck of the format, 61%. You have kind of combo elements with Yawgmoth. So you have fair game plan. Fair, I use this like loosely, but Deathrite Shaman, Delighted Halfling, turn 3, cast Natural Order, get Atraxa, or if you have enough of a board, Crater Hoof Behemoth, attack into your opponent. You also have the ability with like Yawg to loop Young Wolves together, to kind of drain out your opponent, draw a bunch of cards, drain them out with Zulaport Cutthroat. Hapatra makes you extra creatures to kind of keep that loop going and kind of go from that route there. The Court of Calling can let you find some hate pieces as well. So that's kind of the Yawg deck of the format. Go to Mono Green Titan. So this deck was one that preyed on a lot of like the Jund mid-range style decks, which have kind of fallen off given the prevalence of show and tell. But the deck here is basically leveraging these, put an extra land into play, Dork, Saboreal Grazer, Kami. So not only do these help you ramp, but also allow the turn 3 natural order to find Primeval Titan. You have things like Spelunking to put lands that would normally come to play tapped with Primeval Titan into play untapped. Fierce Empath also lets you help find some of the top end threats. And then you basically just play a bunch of utility lands. Like the Racer's Rig's an interesting one in here, but Field of the Dead's kind of the core card of the deck. Lets you get extra zombies into play and then kind of kill your opponent that way there. You might want to try out something like Titan of Industry as well in this deck. Trim another Fierce Empath. Titan's a reasonable hit to put into play against Show and Tell, given that it can block an Atraxa, but also blow up the Omniscience in the same turn. Grixis Shadow. So this one's a more aggressive version of the Grixis Shadow deck, 58%, and we see a card that we don't normally see. So it does see play sometimes in Modern, the Temur Battle Rage, basically double striking a creature with power 4 or greater and giving it Trample. So it's kind of a build your own Embercleave at home. This version's got the Scourges in here. I think personally, if you're going to go this route, just play Inti. It's not a dead card on its own. It can provide the trample needed, and it helps provide some like card selection as well. Something to kind of keep in mind there, but this version's kind of more all in on the life loss. You have your Thoughtseizes, you have Infernal Grasp. Stubborn Denial is fairly useful in this matchup, given that you can count, or you have a lot of ways for Ferocious to counter the bigger things. And then just Disruptive Elements, Fatal Push, Deathrite to attack the graveyards. Interesting with this version, no Bobble, no DRC. Those are other things you may want to consider in the deck, just as ways to kind of fill your graveyard. Allow Delirium and just kind of smooth out your draws. And then lastly, we have Mono White Death and Taxes. So I tried out a version of this on my channel if you want to see. It's reasonable into like the combo decks. It felt a little underpowered against the creature decks, so things like Zoo and stuff like that, your creatures tend to just be smaller, all things considered. It does have some like hate pieces like Hushbringer that shuts off Enter the Battlefield effects, Archon of Emeria versus Storm, Boromir against like free cast. So there's some elements there that are pretty strong. All in all, like things like Thalia and Esper Sentinel getting pinged by the Bowmasters feels pretty bad. Personally, I prefer the like 5-color humans builds. plays out a little bit better. You could use things like Meddling Mage or Lavinia that are broader in terms of their effectiveness. Like originally I started with Lavinia, then I went with Meddling Mage because Meddling Mage can name things like Winota, for example, or Primeval Titan. You could just name things outside of just like free cast things, which works a little bit better, and then kind of tax them that way there. But if you want to see like Tax's deck in the format, you can take a look. I have a full video demoing this deck itself as well. That's it for the week. Let me know what you've been playing in Timeless. We'll catch you next time, and thanks for watching.